This week the human springs are going to work on inward dives. So with that focus in mind, let's talk about some prerequisites for deciding whether or not we should actually have anybody do their inward dive, some dry skills that they should go through before they actually attempt the dive, and some things that we're looking for as they work on the dive to make sure that it's a safe and functional dive once they get going with it. All right, let's start with prerequisites. So when we have a diver who has done H-jump forward and backward in straight and tuck positions, and you'll remember that H-jump is both arms straight above the head and no arm circle at all. Once they've done H-jump front and back in straight position and in tuck position, and they've also done standing front dive tuck, then that covers the prerequisites. That a diver who's done those skills reasonably consistently can start to work toward inward dive. Now, the dry skills that we want to work on here for the inward dive: inward drop on the training mats. And there's a video linked up to the comments here where you'll be able to take a look at that drill being done. Hands and knees drop on the trampoline. That's fairly self-explanatory. Again, we want to mirror all of the motions that the diver is going to do on the diving board in all of the drill work. So having them start with their arms up in H position, no arm circle, just rock 3 times, push and throw down the center. On the trampoline, you can really work with a diver on some of the performance standards on a trampoline or on a dry diving board if you have access to that. That's a great place to help the kids work on some of the performance standards that I'll talk about in a second. And then I've also linked up a video in the comments where you can take a look at a skill we do on the wet mat. So we'll take a stack of mats and put a couple of the panels hanging in the water, have the diver jump off backward and do a hands and knees drop onto the panels. It's a very short video, but at least it shows you what I'm talking about. Let's get to performance standards. So these are the key elements of the dive that we want you to keep an eye out for when you're working on inward dives with the divers. Number 1, maintaining a stable head position. We want kids to stand on the board ready to go with their eyes fixed on the back of the diving board, with their chin up slightly, and good body alignment, belly tight, arms tall. So their arms should be pointing straight up at 12 o'clock. We want to watch out for, during the rocking of the board, during the last rise up onto the toes before they drop their body weight down getting ready to jump, so that squatting motion, during the actual push and throw motion, that entire sequence, the head should stay stable, still, with the eyes fixed on the back of the diving board. So keep an eye on that. Now, when it comes time to actually push, the only way that they're going to be able to safely create angular momentum, rotation, turn over, get all the way around, is to throw their arms in the direction that they want to spin while they're pushing against the diving board. So they have to push and throw at the same time. Now, when they do that, if their eyes are fixed on the back of the diving board, they will be much more likely to throw in a straight line down the center of the board. What you'll see as a common error is kids will anticipate the fact that they're going to spin inward, and they start to look down to look at the board, look at their feet, anticipate that rotation. When they look down, they see the diving board, and a lot of kids will have a sort of an instinctive reaction to that and throw slightly to the side. This is a long-term problem. There are divers on our national team who we're still trying to resolve this issue with. We do not want to start kids out with this issue. So please be diligent with divers. Make sure that they are throwing straight, that they are throwing down the middle while they look at the back of the board. If they're not, back them up. Make sure that they can do an H jump straight, a backward H jump straight with their eyes on the back of the board. Make sure that they can do a backward H jump tuck with their eyes still on the board, throwing down the center. work on inward drop on the dry board or on the trampoline if you can get access to those pieces of equipment, or to the training mat, to work on keeping the dive straight, keeping the eyes fixed on point. One thing I will say about the dry mats, doing training mat drops, inward drops, hands and knees drops on the training mat, is that that's a great time to give them a physical object to look at so that they can have something tangible to stare at. So I will frequently take a shoe or a cone or a water bottle and set it right out in front of them and say, look, I want you to do a hands and knees drop jumping backward, and I want you to keep your eyes on that object during the entire rotation. So if that thing is here, they're looking at it all the way until they land. They never look down. Obviously, once they get into the water, they're going to want to eventually look down at the entry point. It's better in the long run to have them look at it too long at first, because the real issue is if their head drops before they push, it has a tendency to make them too close to the board. It has a tendency to cause the dive to rotate too quickly and uncontrolled, and the combination of those two things will oftentimes result in the diver's heels coming over. They over-rotate, they don't hit the board as they pass it with their head or their hands, but then they clip their heel on the board as they come past it because they've over-rotated and tapped their heel. It's a scary moment for a little person, and it's something that we definitely want to work very hard to avoid ever having to deal with. So, throwing straight, eyes on the back of the board, keeping your head still, keeping your eyes on the back of the board until you're in the tuck is a good goal for the kids to aspire to on these inward dives. Okay, so I think that covers inwards. Let's keep a close eye on these kids. Make sure that they've got good lead-ups before we have them do these tricks. Please make sure that they are doing a competent front dive tuck before you unleash them on an inward dive, and have a great time with them. Take a look at the videos that are linked up in the comments. I've put a few videos in there that will fill in some of the gaps here on some of the information that I provided you, show you exactly what I'm talking about with inward drop on the training mats and on the wet mats into the water. All right, have a great time. We'll see you at the pool.